want to hear that?
Hold on. Yes, it actually curves in when it's viewed from and in a non-inertial, actually, AKA spinning reference frame. You can plot it out. I can give you the coordinates for an object, knowing its velocity, where it would be at any point in that point coordinate system at any time. So it would be curving in the non-inertial reference frame. That's why they call it That's why they call it the apparent deflection. It's what we see. We can measure it. It's real.
You hear
Okay.
that?
Okay. So the Earth is the merry-go-round. The sun is the ball. The ball is going straight across in a straight, flat-ass line. But because you see it's curved, you say it's curved.
I have no idea
What
That's
the hell?
pretty fucking stupid.
You know what? The better example, is to make a merry-go-round. The merry-go-round is the Earth. And you're talking about a plane that's the ball.
Hold on, guys. There's too many people trying. Somebody's already talking. Somebody's trying to get in. Relax, guys.
Yeah,
I'm still on about that.
The Earth is the merry-go-round, and the plane is the ball. And the airport that it's trying to get to is the person across the way. It's not going to hit the airport because it'll curve away because the ball is turning. So it's not going to hit the airport if it went in a straight line to hit the airport.
But a plane can steer, right?
Hold on one second.
Right,
Peyton asked to Shill. Hold on 1 second, please.
Problem.
Guys, Peyton asked to Shill. You're like breathing in your mic or some shit. Go on mute or something, or back up from your mic 2 feet. Thank you.
So is your assertion that the plane tries to steer to account for the Coriolis, Ruif?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's not the case. Planes
It is
never
not the
account
case.
The
for the
Coriolis force is about the same as
pilots are instructed to account for the Coriolis.
No, there's
They're instructed to follow
you
a
think it's
track.
an AI in the plane thing. You don't know what you're talking about.
They're instructed to
stay
follow
on
a track.
course.
That's correct. They're instructed to say fly a course.
So you're saying the pilots are instructed to account for Coriolis?
the Coriolis.
Pilots are
What did
instructed
we
to
just
fly a
say?
course.
This time now, listen very
What did
carefully.
we
They are
just say?
instructed to stay on course. That's what we're saying. We're not saying something different
They're
from
never
that.
told it was due to Coriolis.
They don't have to be. Do they adjust for wind? Do they get told to adjust for wind, or do they just follow their track? And if it's windy, they adjust their
It still
track.
doesn't work for you guys. Even
Yes,
if
it
you
does.
have your conservation.
It's exactly the same.
It's even more minor than that. It's a minor effect.
Why does a 50 caliber cannon shot 25 miles 1,000 foot off target going north or
That's
south?
something I don't even have knowledge of.
That's Coriolis. No, I can give you the artillery. I can give you the artillery citation for that.
There's lots of railgun people
saying
no,
not railgun. 50 caliber cannons shot 25 miles from like England to France area in World War II. There'd be a deviation of 1,000 feet due to Coriolis.
Say that again. You said 50 what?
50 caliber cannon.
Yeah, you don't know artillery.
About 25 miles. Yes, 25 miles north or south. Listen,
you don't know artillery. 50 caliber.
You've already
Zanick.
Yeah, Zanick, you've said it twice now. Just go ahead and cite it.
Zanick,
50 let me finish my sentence and I'll stop and I'll listen to you. 50 caliber cannon shot 25 miles will be 1,000 feet roughly off from target being shot north or south.
25 miles, Zanick. We went through this before
25
already.
miles.
The hypotenuse would be 25 miles off.
No, you're wrong.
I mean, 8 miles. My bad. It'll be 8 miles.
You got that wrong then. You're getting it wrong now. You're getting it wrong now. Maybe someone else can help you.
Off. Already did that.
It's not a hypotenuse. It's not a hypotenuse.
Okay.
Yes, it is a hypotenuse.
It's not a hypotenuse.
Hold on, guys. Take a breath. Everyone maybe take a breath.
Yeah, you don't need a citation. Zanick doesn't know what artillery is. 50 caliber is small arms. It's not a cannon.
You don't even got the gun right.
You heard it.
He's right. I called him out on this. He's right. It's referenced in artillery also. There is such thing as a 50 caliber in artillery, so he's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just see it just in case. There might be. Let's just
go ahead and cite it. Otherwise, it's just going to be everyone's word flying.
We'll get this over with right now.
Just go look up 50 caliber cannon. It'll pop up in Google.
I'm not looking up your claims, Zanick.
Right,
How long have you known me?
I'll do it again. I'll do it
again. What he's saying is
like
real.
50 times.
I don't even look up my own claims. Are you nuts?
A plane can't land on a moving runway, and if it's flying against the spin of the Earth, it would have to do so.
Oh my God! Are you still 3 years later? You're still saying that?
If it's flying against the spin of the Earth,
Why is it
Even
flying
if it's
against
going
the
600 miles per hour backwards? Well,
Why is it
going
flying
against
backward?
the-
You're pulling a Brian Moore on us
from
right
the
now.
third party according to the ball, right? It would appear to
Yeah,
go
the ball.
600 miles
This
per
is
hour
what
backwards,
Zanick couldn't
200
handle when
miles
we
per hour.
come in. Zanick, you never could handle neutralizing that force and understanding that after you do so, right, you now need to talk about the air putting you back in
No, the air, everything.
averaging.
You take off on a still day, you're going north. You go from a tangential velocity of 1,000 miles an hour. You leave the ground, you still have that tangential velocity. That momentum is retained, is conserved. So as
Even
you
if
go
we give you
north,
that, it still doesn't
hold
work.
on, let me finish. It's a quick scenario. You may be able to get your mind to click in here. You're going north, so the tangential velocity is still retained. That momentum is still
We're not talking
retained.
about that anymore.
Hold on.
We're not
As
talking
you
about
go
that
north,
anymore.
as you go north, hold on. As you go north,
velocities.
hold on. As you go north, the surface now will have a lesser tangential velocity than where you took off from. So you will curve to the right, to the east,
where you are.
because of the conservation of linear momentum.
Yeah, you
Guys,
can
hold
have
on.
the
Paige,
conservation of
hold on one
linear
second,
momentum
guys.
and it still
Guys,
doesn't
one.
work for you.
Hold
Still
on. I'm
doesn't
sorry.
work.
I'm very sorry. 1 second. Paige, you're still breathing in your fucking mic, bro. Relax, please.
I can't hear it.
He's just hot mic. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
I'm saying it still doesn't work. Even if you have your conservation of momentum, it doesn't work because you're crossing different latitudes, which have different tangential forces. And if you're flying in any angle that's north to south and against the spin, you would have to time it just like you would with your rail gun or whatever you're saying that the snipers might have to account for. They would have to aim at something that's not in front of them, and the plane would be affected by the Coriolis effect.
It
And
is.
It would be something they would have to figure every single time. The calculations aren't even. They're crazy calculations every which way for every landing strip, and they don't have to. There's no difference in the way they land. They would have to account for a different way of landing on a north-northwest runway compared to a south-southeast runway.
No, they would.
Yes, they would.
No.
You can't just say conservation of momentum.
No, they don't.
Let him
Yes,
respond.
we can.
It's just
Let him.
you can't say a
Hold
spinning
on. Let
ball
these.
just as if it were stationary.
No.
Yeah.
because
Let
of
him respond
conservation of
now, though.
momentum.
Let him
Okay,
respond.
now,
Take a breath.
Your problem is that the artillery piece, all the corrections have to be put in at the beginning. In the airplane, you're making slow, tiny transitions all the time. You're correcting to your course. That's the difference.
They never correct for Coriolis. It's only for wind speeds.
You don't have to correct for Coriolis because the Coriolis effect is very small compared to the winds. It's like a 10-mile-an-hour crosswind, I think.
Over long distances.
But over long distances, you make a small correction.
1,000 miles off course.
You make a small correction all the time
don't.
for Coriolis. Yes,
They
you
never
do.
Well, no,
Yes,
you wouldn't
do.
end up
You're not
1,000
correct for
miles off course
Coriolis.
because the moment you notice you're
So
even 10
airplanes-
feet, like the moment you even notice you're half a mile off course, you're going to fix it by getting back on course. And then you might
Airplanes
find
can't
yourself
fly.
off course
But they
again,
would
and then you
know
get
that
back
that's
on
because
course.
of Coriolis. They're accounting
Airplanes
for it.
can't
The
fly
pilots would
from-
be very aware of this.
So
They'd
does
be
it
trained
take
for this.
more energy? Does it take more fuel and more energy to travel the same distance because of the Coriolis force?
No.
Wouldn't you think that the
More
flight
than what?
simulators would include a Coriolis force?
Wouldn't it?
It depends on what direction you're going, north or south. If you're going,
Hold on, I got a good question.
Yeah, that would
if
be
you're going,
included
hold
in
on,
the
if you're
flight
going
simulators,
south,
you think, right?
if you're going south, you will have a benefit because the Earth will appear to rotate underneath you as you go to a higher level of tangential velocity.
No,
So
Zanick, hold on.
You get some distance for free. You do.
Yeah, exactly.
Zanick, hold on.
Going north, it's the opposite. Going north, hold on,
rotate
it's going north. It's the
plane.
opposite.
Never.
Why is it so hard
Guys,
to
can I get in
understand?
real quick, please?
It's
So
not hard to
wouldn't it?
understand. It doesn't work for you no matter what you say about this.
Yeah, let me just.
I just
me ask him
posted
a
the
question
50
real quick.
caliber cannon.
Hold on, Zanick. Wouldn't it be better to lead the target than to try to stay on course or trail behind it?
That's what I said. That's why you'll have a. If you had a hypotenuse, you were triangulating, say his missile that he brought up.
Hold on.
And it's a cannon. It shoots up to 25 miles. It's about a ton cannon, right? You would have to lead that bullet a hypotenuse of 8 miles. And he says it's 1,000 feet.
Hold on. Why?
Let
him answer my question. Why aren't we flying when we?
Quick, hold on. The hypotenuse next to the leg.
The plane is not a ballistic object.
The hypotenuse next to the leg is very, very close. 99% of that leg is the hypotenuse, so it's not a factor.
Answer Jeremy's question, though.
I don't think you know what that word means.
I know, but Jeremy was saying something before Don did that.
And as far as the 50 caliber, I posted the picture of the 50 caliber cannon, so that's come to rest. Number two, I think someone already mentioned that the Coriolis effect is similar to the effect of a crosswind. Pilots just adjust for it naturally.
Nope,
It's not a big deal. You can calculate what
they only
the
adjust
Coriolis
for
would
winds.
be.
They're not instructed to adjust for Coriolis.
They don't have to be.
It's a real thing.
They don't have to be
They're
because
not-
it's like a. It's
They
like
would
a.
Do it
be aware of it, and
instinctively.
No, that's not
Yes,
true.
it's a
It
small
would be something they'd
crosswind.
be very aware of. It's not just a small
No,
crosswind. You're talking
it's a
about
small
the difference
crosswind.
between where the plane would end up, and if they're flying against the spin of the Earth, they would end up in a different spot.
Well,
When
yes.
they're trying to land,
So-
regardless, even if you have your conservation
Right, and they
momentum,
make sure they
even
don't
if you
do
have
that
all
by
they would
adjusting the
still have to
airplane
land on a
course.
moving runway. They would still
So,
have to
but
land on a moving
no,
runway.
you don't see they. No.
It would be
The
impossible.
Coriolis effect is very small compared to the velocity of the airplane. The change, the delta,
It doesn't
over
matter how
time
small
is
it
very
is.
small.
Correcting for it when you're landing.
You correct for it. No, you
wouldn't
don't
be
need to
small.
correct
I would
for it.
argue it wouldn't be small, but even if it was small,
It is small.
It would cause problems when the plane's
No.
trying to land on a surface.
No,
that's
because
moving
planes can land.
independently above the plane.
Planes can land with lots of crosswind.
Planes can stay on
Small-
course
depending-
with
it's not talking about
turbulence,
the
and
crosswind.
turbulence is
Planes
not
land
even
on
predictable.
aircraft
Talking
carriers.
about
For fuck's sake.
Don't worry about the crosswind. I'm talking
Excuse me,
about
for-
they adjust for crosswinds, yes, but that's not the
For God's
Coriolis we're
sake,
talking about.
planes can
We're
land
talking
on
about the difference
aircraft
between the
carriers that are
pavement of
moving.
the Earth and the plane.
The planes can land on aircraft carriers and moving at 30 miles per hour.
Yeah, and that's a very precise thing that they have to train for, right? And they would have
Nonetheless,
to
they
they'd
do
have
it.
to figure out how to do that on a regular one-way too. if
All
the
right. How
Coriolis
about
is
this?
real.
How about
They
this?
also point it into the wind in certain
I'll give
ways.
you.
Aircraft
you another-
carrier is completely different.
I'll give you another Coriolis effect called Yotvos. Now, if you're going east or west, your plane becomes 3% lighter one way versus the other. And do they count for that? Of course they do. This is measured. They know the weight of the plane is 3.3% less. So they use a little less gas going
Jet
away.
streams are great. Jet streams are
Hold
great.
on,
They
if
work in
the
a
air
perfect circle on flat
is
Earth.
still, but usually there's always a difference in air, wind, headwinds or tailwinds, and that is far more important to deal with. But yes, all these things are measurable. They can
Is the weight?
You can measure weight.
Yeah.
You can measure weight on an airplane traveling east or west. I think
right.
Wolfie did
I think
it.
Wolfie
He
did
showed a
this,
scale. You did Wolfie. You go to scale. You can see things way less going east than they go going west.
All right. So would weight affect the pendulum swinging?
What is the calculation for a pendulum?
If a pendulum weighed different, would it
No. What does it depend on? I've told you this
swing
before
faster
too.
or slower?
What is the
Jeremy,
main
you can figure this out
factor
for
of a
yourself.
pendulum?
What's the equation for the frequency of a pendulum? If it involves mass, then sure. If it doesn't, then no. This is a self-answerable question.
Right. And I'm at, so, you should know this. We've gone over it many times as well. Pendulum.
I thought I debunked the Foucault
You didn't
pendulum a
debunk
few weeks
anything.
ago with the Yotvos effect.
No.
I could have
No,
swore
you
I did.
haven't no, you didn't debunk the
I
Foucault.
think I did. I'm
No, you
gonna
did
have
not.
to remember on this. I'll
The
get back. to
Foucault
No,
pendulum
you
with
haven't
the
debunked
Yotvos
anything
effect?
ever.
The Foucault pendulum with the Yotvos effect, really? That's
you.
your
Yeah, it was good. I forgot it though.
Yeah,
I
forgot
know.
Coach,
it.
do you
I
remember it?
I remember it.
Yes.
Yeah. He thinks that he debunked it because of the fact that it goes persistently. The deviation is persistent, right? The precession, I mean. Whereas some of that precession is going north to south, and some is going east to west. And that he believes that when it's going east to west, you shouldn't see any deviation. Only when it's going north to
You
south.
think you're going to see a difference in the pendulum speed from east to west, north to south, just when the pendulum is that the deal?
No, but there definitely should be because it's showing us the Coriolis effect. I mean, some of you guys deny this. I don't know why. The Foucault pendulum is showing us the Coriolis effect, and
we already told you
you're-
that hold on. We already told you that the Yotvos effect gives it either makes it lighter or heavier. We already told you that the mass of the pendulum doesn't determine its swing.
So do pilots calculate a difference between north and south flights?
Okay, well, hold on.
No.
I just
hold on
told
one
you.
second.
I just told you about a 50 caliber cannon that shot north. It's 1,000 foot off when shot
Hold
north.
on.
That wasn't the question.
That's
And
traveling around. It's traveling around 1,700 miles an hour. But that's
You cut Jeremy off in the middle.
Hold on, Zanick. So why aren't we leading the target when we fly in a plane? Wouldn't it be better to lead the target since we know where it's going to be eventually than to?
Of course, yeah, you would lead. So over 1,000
So
miles.
why don't we fly? Why don't we fly like that?
You are over 2,000 miles. You're leading that target for over 300. You're gonna be 300 miles off or 200 miles off over like 2,000 miles. So yeah, you're leading. You'd be effectively leading the target.
You're telling me planes when planes
or-
fly. Hold on, you're telling me when planes fly, they're leading they're pointed in a direction.
Yes.
And they're leading the target.
As long as there's no wind,
by
if there's
hundreds
no wind,
of miles.
If there's not, yeah, because if you didn't lead the target
No, they're
or
not
lag the target, you would be 200 miles off when you got there due to Coriolis.
That's far-fetched.
200 miles. 200 miles.
This sounds
200
far-fetched.
miles.
Now you're just making shit up.
Hold on. 200 miles over going 500
don't say
miles
it that
an hour.
way. I understand,
500 miles-
Zanick. I understand what you're saying. Don't say it that way because you're just
I
confusing
know,
the heck
but
out of everybody.
he's just irritating me now. Come on.
You're confusing the heck out of everybody. What you say is true.
Your answer is irritating the rest
Sorry
of
about
us.
that. Go
Yes,
ahead.
the White Knight again. Zanuck, be careful.
No, Zanick was saying something correct, but
Zanick,
it was
when
saying
we
it very
take off-
confusingly.
No, I was being flippant in my
Is it
response.
correct?
Okay, we take off from an
Maybe SE
airport.
understands Coriolis now. Do you, SE? Do you understand it now?
Hold on.
Let me
It's
explain
not
it
about
to
us
you.
understanding it.
Give
It's
me-
about
give me
you
a sec.
contradicting yourself.
I like to say one sentence.
Go ahead.
You guys are arguing. I know our guys know the story, but ballers, you're arguing about a visual effect.
Not a visual effect.
I do.
A visual effect. Let me hold on a second. Let me just finish
I
one
told you
sentence.
it's actual. It's an actual
A
effect.
visual effect cannot affect so much as a mosquito.
Then why does the pendulum in the museums knock over pegs as they
Yeah,
move?
why did people that in my car, if they're not bucked in, why do they go out the window? Is that's a effect? That's an optical effect.
It would be
That's
an
a
actual
really
effect.
silly thing to say.
And the problem is they don't actually account for it.
Out the window.
I've explained it to a 7-year-old child.
If
and they
I
understood it
slam on the brakes,
perfectly
why do you go through the windshield?
using a merry-go-round. This
Yeah, well,
is
you're
so
incorrect.
funny.
If
You're
I slam on the
incorrect.
brakes, why do you go through the windshield? That's a
You're incorrect
pseudo
explaining it to a
force.
7-year-old then.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
hold on, I
swing them on a
remember the
merry-go-round and tell them that they're not actually being flung outward. That's
Hold on,
just
I
a
remember-
visual effect.
I remember the Yutvos effect argument with the Foucault pendulum.
Oh, please tell us.
If the pendulum's lighter, right? If it's lighter you only get this going east-west, right?
Or west to east, opposite.
Whatever. If it's getting lighter and heavier as it goes west or east, it would take longer to swing, right?
No.
Because
No,
No.
the mass
Because it would
does
go
not
up higher.
depend.
It would go up
No.
higher on each swing.
No.
On each swing, it
No.
would go up higher than when it was
No.
going north-south.
The mass of a pendulum, Bob, has nothing to do with its period.
No, if something weighs less and it has that momentum, it's going to be able to go. It's going to go higher.
The mass of a pendulum, Bob,
no.
has nothing to do with.
Or if it
Period.
weighs more, it's not going to go. I don't know.
He's talking about coming to the Eophus effect. So if it weighs less one direction and is lighter the other direction, it would counteract itself. It'd be a self-correcting problem.
All right,
You think you're going to see that over a swing of a pendulum?
I didn't remember it. I need to re-remember it correctly.
You think you're
I'll
going to
get back
notice
to you.
You think you're going to notice an Otvos effect over the swing of a pendulum?
I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
Right,
get
I
back.
mean,
to
the
me,
period
please.
of a pendulum is something like 2 pi root L over G or something. There's no mass term in there. So the frequency of a pendulum does not depend on the mass.
Well, I think he's referring to the change in G because you've got now an acceleration.
Oh, he thinks he's going to see a difference over the swing of a pendulum.
Well, he's not. His whole thing's just a pedantic,
But there will be a difference when if I fly north versus flying south, right? I should have to account for that.
Yeah.
Flying
Why aren't we
north-
leading?
flying
Why aren't
north-
we leading cities when we fly to them?
Well, okay, so I
Why
told
aren't
you
planes
over
leading cities?
You're flying over a ground track.
Over 1,000 miles. If you were to aim and fly perfectly straight, you'd be off by 300 miles. So technically, they do lead or lag those targets, but they don't have to because there's so many other factors that are far in excess of those of Coriolis for airplane.
I guess what I'm trying to say though is it should take more energy to fly south than it does to fly north. Correct?
Why? No. Why would you say that?
Well, because I have less tangential velocity up north than I do as I head south, right? I have to catch up.
Or I guess if you're trying to head due
Directly
south,
south.
right?
Yeah, maybe. Sure. You'd have a 300 miles to make up if you just went perfectly straight. So that 300 miles have you made up somewhere?
It's got a little bit of velocity.
Flights north to south. So now you're saying flights north. So now you're saying flights going north to south should be different times because of this?
No.
Well, you're going from an area of higher tangential velocity, so momentum, a certain momentum you leave the Earth with when you take off, and you're going to an area that you'd have to actually increase momentum to get to that point if the Earth is going faster there, and that would be faster at the equator. So theoretically, you'd have to use a little more energy to get to that point.
So north and south trips should take
ceteris paribus. ceteris paribus, though, all other things being equal.
I remember what you guys did to debunk it. It was that those triangles, and each of the triangles, like each time you deviated off the triangle, a small one, you would never be able to make up that time.
Wait, for what?
For what you and Brandon did that presentation of about like 2 months ago, where it showed the one big triangle, is that this is where you'd aim and this is where you'd end up, and then trying to draw smaller triangles through it.
Was this the one where you guys don't understand
I
calculus?
remember what you're talking about. Yeah.
Well,
This
it's
one
the
where you guys
exact
don't understand calculus again?
that I'm making. It's different. You need a different amount of energy to go north to south than you do to go south to north.
No, if you're going south, you should like say you're at New York, or no, say like North Carolina or something, and you're going north. You have to catch up, like it's spinning away from you, so you'd have to make up more miles. Whereas if you're going south, it would be coming at you, essentially.
Right. I guess so.
The flight time should be different north to south. No, this is a no-brainer, guys.
If the places are directly north and south of each other, then going north to south, you're going to overshoot by some amount. If you're going south north, you're going to undershoot by that same amount. So the correction's the same amount. I guess what would be more interesting is if a southeast heading flight, which is you have to catch up, versus an equidistant southwest heading flight.
That's what I'm talking about, bro. These
I think would be more
times,
interesting.
these
than just
times
north
should
or
be,
south.
yeah, these times should be different on these north-south flights because of this catching up.
Except that the winds generally blow west to east.
Oh,
in the
the
United
winds,
States
I know.
are much bigger effect than any Coriolis effect. Yeah, maybe if you had a perfectly still atmosphere from the surface all the way to the top, then yeah, maybe you'd see a difference, but you don't.
Paid when we take a plane off, are we leading it?
No.
According to the Coriolis, no. So Zanick lied to me earlier.
Well, Zanick was speaking again. If you just would hold the course and not deviate at all, and there were no winds and blah blah blah, yeah, perhaps.
But that's not what we do, though.
That's correct.
That's not what we do, though, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
he made it seem like that's what we do. We do this.
No, it could be done, but it would not be a good thing to do.
Hey, Coach O, at what altitude does the atmosphere stop spinning? Or you can have a crack at it too, Paid, if you like.
That's a silly question. I'm not answering.
Since you're not answering, huh? I didn't think you would. How about
what
you?
What was the question? What was the question? I missed it. Say it again.
At what altitude does the atmosphere stop spinning?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. What do you mean? I
right,
fucking love that question.
It stops right at the edge of the dome.
All right, so you can see the dome. Fine. You're
what's the
welcome
altitude
to flat
of the
Earth.
dome?
I don't know.
What's the altitude of the dome? What's the altitude of the dome? What's the altitude of the dome?
I don't know. Wherever you said it was.
I don't know either.
The question implicitly assumes that it does stop, right?
I can't answer your
So
question.
it goes forever.
NASA is going to try to rumpus this. He knows it's devastating.
So the atmosphere.
What's the atmosphere of the dome?
Not devastating.
You can do it. Go ahead. I see.
See, what's the altitude of the dome?
I would say it's about 22,236 miles.
That's a very specific.
That's where the dome is?
No.
Any evidence of that?
This is a red herring. This is a red herring, SC. Don't let him do this to you.
I'm waiting for Zanick. I'm laughing here. I'm having a great time. Zanick, do you care to answer?
It's not a red herring. That's actually the height that they say the geocentric orbits are at around. So that's why I'm saying that's the height that they're about, whether they can get to, and they can't get past that point.
No, in their model, they can go to infinity and beyond on some Buzz Lightyear shit.
First of all, you have to laugh when they say Coriolis, conservation of momentum at the same breath. They don't understand what they're saying.
No, that last question you asked was what? That last question you asked was
funny. What you're.
Go ahead, Left Lane.
No, I mean, why is it funny? I don't understand why it's funny.
That's why. That's why it's so funny, because I've explained it 100 times and you guys still don't get it.
Imagine an airline pilot having to adjust every time he's turning and maneuvering to get in position to land, also for the turn of the Earth underneath of him. Just imagine that for a second. How incredibly difficult that would be.
SC, that last question you asked of when does the
not very.
atmosphere stop? The last question you asked of when does the atmosphere stop rotating with the Earth? If it does it all, that's a great question.
They're not going to answer
Phenomenal.
it. It's been asked before.
Phenomenal
They're not.
question.
Yeah, they're not going to answer it, Jeremy.
It's a headshot.
Ask it again.
Hey, SE, can I ask you a question?
It's a
Hold
headshot.
up. Kosho was asked something.
Kosho's heard it before.
Is the dome solid? Is it a solid dome? Is it physical?
I never made a claim of a dome. I have no clue what's up there.
The question.
Well, what was the question? What was SC's question then?
The question was, at what altitude does the atmosphere stop spinning?
I heard this question.
The same altitude that
This should be easy then.
The same altitude.
Just tell me the altitude of the dome, and I'll tell you what
Is the dome
altitude it's on.
physical? Is it a physical
It's
dome?
easy. All they have to do is just, there's two numbers that they can throw out, but they're scared to throw them because they know what's going to happen.
They can't throw any number out because of conservation of momentum. If you had it stopping somewhere, you'd have.
So SE, if we answered that question with we don't know, would that be efficient for you?
No, hell no.
I wouldn't answer that.
Why not?
Fuck no.
Why do
By
we
the
have to
way,
know a
this is
specific height?
We already know you don't.
This is
B-ball, we already
Rakia's
know
Why
you
do,
don't
why
know.
do we have to know a specific height?
B-ball, we already know you don't know, bro. Relax.
You remember that news article?
I'm asking SE. Why do we have to? Why does it have to be a specific height? Where the
It's just a
atmosphere stops
question.
spinning?
Why are you asking me a question? Just say I don't know, and then we can continue. Or
No,
give a number.
we don't know. I don't know. So now, can you answer my question? Is the dome? Is it a physical dome?
Who said
I have
dome?
no idea what it is. I never made a claim of a dome, or that there is one or isn't one. I never made a claim of it. Why are you asking me about a dome?
Yes, some kind of weird straw man shit.
Yeah,
Fuck
they're
out of here.
trying to, straw man. Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, you just like you straw man our.
Look,
how was his question a straw man? Yes,
I have an answer for the question, dude.
Because there's no specific height where the atmosphere stops spinning.
Okay, go ahead, Coach.
Remember that news article that said that the atmosphere was influencing air that want to follow it at the moon?
Bro, you sound like you're in a tin can right now.
Getting out of the shower. That's.
This is Rakia's question, by the way,
you guys. Can't figure out simple things like
I don't know.
eclipses.
I think Rakia might have got that off me. I don't know.
According to recent news, doesn't the atmosphere spin out past the moon?
That was my point.
Very, very, very sparse atmosphere. Yes.
Ding, ding, ding! We got a winner.
That's what I just said. I just said that.
Why can't you guys,
bro? It's full of
try and think about things like lunar eclipses? How about you try and figure out lunar eclipses first?
Bro, you're going from one thing to the other, trying to
You're all
do
over the
something
place,
here.
Settle
You're
down,
getting
B-ball.
cornered. You know the Coriolis is a death knell for you guys. You know it.
No,
man.
it's not. It just shows it just shows your lack of scientific knowledge. Jesse, that's all.
Okay, so show it to us. Can we recreate it? Let's say a goal. Can we recreate the field goal? Can we recreate the field goal, or can we?
I've told you how much. I've told you how much it would deviate. How much does it deviate? I told you. Do you remember?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah. How much does it deviate? Do you know?
A ball deviated. The Earth was spinning enough. The Coriolis affected enough to deviate. We know the field goal, right? Now we should be able to recreate this every day, twice on Sunday.
How much does it deviate?
You tell me.
No, you can do the calculations. You tell me. I know the answer.
Just enough for the goal to go in.
I made a video on it.
Hold on. Which direction is this field laid out in?
North south. It was kicking
north. Most.
All right.
Most football fields are north south.
That's something like 3 millimeters or something.
Yeah, something like 3 millimeters.
Oh, it was a bit more than that. I got.
Well, it depends how long
you
your
sure?
field goes.
Are you sure?
I did a calculation in my video, which I'm happy to link you to.
It also depends on what latitude.
What did you get, Ruhif? How much deviation did you get?
It was something like a centimeter or two.
Yeah.
They got you off this rotating air with this solid body bullshit they claim's happening.
Yeah. Question for the Flurfs. If we had no atmosphere, would there still be Coriolis?
The only Flurf is Ranting.
Yes.
That's his name now. He earned the nickname Flurf. It's the only one there is. Go ask him.
Sure.
Go
But
ask
the
him.
question is,
Okay, go ask him. You asked a question for a Flurf.
Oh, you're
There's
a
your
We
flower.
all
You're
know
a
the
flower.
answer is yes, man. Come on, man. This is.
so it's yes. Yes, there
Isn't
would
it
still be
yes?
Coriolis
Isn't it?
if there was no atmosphere. Yeah,
It
yes.
depends on the reference frame.
Would there still be
So what's your point?
Coriolis if
What's
there
your
was no
point, Ruhif?
atmosphere?
Ruhif, what's your point?
Because you talk about the wind and the atmosphere having something to do with Coriolis. It doesn't.
Well, we're just. I think
trumpet.
my claim is that gas doesn't rotate in lockstep with a sphere like they claim to be doing on Earth.
It doesn't matter though, right? Because we just said that the atmosphere doesn't have to be there for there to be Coriolis. Do you agree with
Sure,
that?
but in the midst of your claim, you have this nutcase, unbelievable, unprovable shit going on.
But
No,
the
it's
thing
very.
Such as what?
You
Such
can
as what?
measure. You can measure.
Such as
the
gas
gas.
rotating.
I mean,
Such as
hurricane.
gas rotating with a.
They account for this. So I guess
like-
the documents
I
are
want
all
They don't.
live.
Yeah, they don't want this. You know.
I mean, like hurricanes, right?
Y'all, NASA, you heard your side ask Jeremy a question. Jeremy tried to answer it, and then you talked over it, right?
Sorry.
You heard me say it already, Ruif. Gas doesn't rotate in lockstep with a.
Yes, it
with
does.
a sphere.
According to whom? Jeremy?
Yes, it does.
According to who, Jeremy?
Well, let me ask Ruth a question then. So if there was no atmosphere, right, and we had something that was hovering above the Earth, would the Earth spin underneath it?
You'd still get the velocity from when you took off. So when you say spin underneath it, do you mean that the Earth is moving at a different speed to your speed, or do you just mean they're both moving at the same speed?
Well, how long do I conserve momentum for?
Forever.
Forever?
Unless there's a force acting on you, like wind resistance or something.
What about the
If you're in a plane,
fly in
Like
the
on
other
Earth, for
direction?
example?
What if you
Ruhif?
just flew in the? What if Ruhif? What if you just flew in the other direction? The
Keep them
opposite?
on it, SC.
Well, I
My
got
bad,
them.
You know where I'm going, huh, Jeremy?
I think I'm pretty good at exemplifying, you know, where the possible contradictions would come in from theory to evidence here.
What I haven't heard is a single explanation on why you can calculate your latitude based on the precession of the Foucault pendulum and why it precesses in the other direction if you go on the other side of the equator.
We don't need to start making up excuses. You've already made enough nutcase claims.
No, we
You've already made it. Hold on.
These are pretty
hold
cool
on.
phenomenon, bro.
You guys already made up enough nutcase claims for the
Explain it.
lot of us.
Please explain that.
The precession is based, or at least it is affected by your latitude. There is no possible flat Earth explanation for that.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. So in order to have the Coriolis effect, you need 2 reference frames, right?
No.
Yeah, you can have infinite
Well,
reference
you're wrong.
frames.
But you need 2, and there's 2 critical
No.
ones. And they have a name, right, Ruhif?
You can have an inertial
Hey,
reference frame and it'll go straight, or you have a rotating reference frame and it will appear
You
to
need-
curve.
You need both of those frames in order for there to be Coriolis, though, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, the
Well, I don't know.
observation of the
Page's
curvature
telling
only
me-
occurs in
telling
one
me
reference
no.
frame.
No,
Don't
because
you
I know
Telling
what
me
you're about
no,
to
you're
do.
saying yes. Who wants to be the tiebreaker? I already know
Jeremy,
what the
don't
answer is.
you just need
What
the
you're about
ladder?
to say.
They'd say no, and Ruhib said yes.
What
I
you're
mean, I
about
know
to
what the
say,
answer
Jeremy.
is. Go ahead,
What
Ruhif.
you're about to say is that the Earth or the atmosphere is a reference frame, right?
Nope. Don't try to straw man me
Okay.
with your bullshit.
Then go.
Damn, Ruhif, you are the foul. Yo, you are terrible when it comes to logic.
Let's continue with content,
Let's
Jeremy.
go.
Fuck, man.
So listen, where were we? You need 2 reference frames. You need 2 reference frames. That's right, Pate.
Yep.
Right? The inertial and the non-inertial.
Yep.
So in the Foucault pendulum, where are these frames?
One's a rotating
He said
one and one's
no
an inertial
before.
one.
Where?
They're not
These are
wares.
areas,
Reference
actual
frames.
areas that exist.
No, this is exactly what I said you would do.
No, it's not.
Right? You don't just go,
Bruh.
this object is a reference frame. A reference frame is a
just ask
coordinate
him-
system.
Ask him if you can leave reference frames. Can you leave a reference frame?
Can you leave one? Yes, yeah, I'll say yes to that.
Yeah, no
That's a
shit.
bit of an oddly
Why you-
worded question.
You can leave a reference frame, yes. Why would you even ask that, B-Ball?
Well, Zanick might not agree. You guys
B-Ball
might
is gonna
want to
say
be
you
careful.
can't.
Y'all
Right,
might
B-Ball?
want to be careful.
B-Ball,
Does
what
a
were you going to
reference
say
frame
that
have
goes
a
back,
position?
right? I heard you say it before. Go ahead,
Yeah.
B-Ball.
Would you say we can't leave a reference frame, B-Ball? Come on. I think
Yeah.
Zanick says that shit too.
Don't we exist in all reference frames at the same time?
Yes,
Xanax,
that is an
silly ass.
excellent
You
point.
see?
That is
That's
an
what I mean.
excellent point. All things exist in all reference frames at all
Whatever.
times.
Yeah, that's what I'm going.
Wow, you're
Excellent.
changing it again now.
No,
I mean,
I thought
Oh, this is
B-Ball
too good, man.
first.
depends on what you mean by like leave.
Yeah, you can't. These guys don't understand reference frames. Don't admit you can leave a reference frame
Yeah,
You
because
just
you
said
never
two
leave. You
different
never
things,
leave a
guys.
reference frame.
You just said
Yeah,
one of you said you can, and one of you said you can't.
Then
Well,
I said it was an
Clarification
awkwardly.
for Rohit. When
They
you
didn't
say
admit
I said it
leave,
was
do
an
you,
awkwardly.
You can measure
Awkwardly
yourself with
phrased
another reference
statement.
frame.
so when you mean leave, do you mean that you are physically leaving some like place that is the reference
No.
frame, or do you just mean you stop using it as a coordinate system?
Yeah, you stop using it and you put yourself basically in another coordinate system.
There you go. That should clear up the confusion.
No, it
Does
won't.
that make sense, Jeremy?
It
So
won't.
you can leave. So
Yeah,
listen.
but it won't.
Yeah, is your coordinate
Okay.
system rotating or is your coordinate system inertial? It's not an object. You did exactly what I said you would do, Jeremy.
No, you need you in order to have the Coriolis effect, you've got to have an inertial and a non-inertial reference frame. These are places where you could view the.
No, they're not places. They're not places.
Yeah, they're places where we view motion.
No.
From. Yes, they
Oh,
are.
that's a
where we
better.
can view
That's a
motion
better way
from.
to say it. That's a better way to say it.
They're real places where we can really view motion from and really see if a ball is curving or not, and be able to tell which frame we're in.
Yeah, so the origin of your coordinate system is either rotating or it's not.
Yeah, so you
can
have to
switch
have,
between them as much as you like.
Fine. So you agree that we have to have these two reference frames.
Yes.
To have the Coriolis effect. Okay.
Yes.
So where are
This
they?
is the last thing.
Go ahead. Go
This is the last thing. I could go.
Do
but
you really,
two
though?
things just to keep everybody on track.
No, you don't.
Fuck. What was it? Right. So just to keep everybody. Hold up one second.
Come on.
Okay.
Yeah, just to keep everybody on track. You gotta make the distinction between can an object change reference frames? The answer is no. Can the observer change reference frames? As you said, the observer being what frames are being observed from. Yes, observations. Observers can change reference frames for that reason. But the other thing was
perspective.
No,
yeah, right. Yeah, the other thing was Coriolis is defined by viewing something from a rotating reference frame, just the one, but by implication. By implication, a rotating reference frame requires that they exist in an inertial reference frame. So it's just a
So you must have. So you must have both of the reference frames. We know you're saying shit. We already know.
You just need the rotating.
No, you need the other one too. You just said it has to exist.
Why do you need the other one? Why do you need the other one?
Did you start smoking weed again?
Why do you need the other one?
Paid would pipe in on this one. You see,
travels
now we
straight
have
in
two
the
guys
inertial
agreeing
reference
and two disagreeing.
Why do you need the other one?
Yo, because you don't have Coriolis without that. That's how you know Coriolis.
If you're in a reference frame, if you're in a rotating reference frame, that's how Coriolis. That's where you see the curve that isn't really there in the inertial.
If you're not in the rotating reference frame, there's no Coriolis.
And where's the ball? Which reference frame is the ball in? The rotating one or the
It's
non-rotating one?
It's in all reference frames at once.
frames at all times.
So in the Foucault pendulum,
guys, you guys are doing bad, man.
No, you're doing horribly because you don't
I thought you
understand
understood
what you're talking about.
Coriolis
Once
10 minutes
again.
ago.
It's like asking 50 students to draw their own coordinate system on the whiteboard. And some of them might have the origin in a different place, some of them might turn it, and it's like asking, okay, I'm going to stick a magnet on the board. Which grid is the magnet in? It's a nonsensical question.
Okay.
It has a position in all of them.
All right, so
And that's exactly what I said you would do, Jeremy.
We've got our Foucault pendulum. You now where is the non-inertial reference frame that we're viewing
You're
it
asking
from?
the same shit question, Jeremy. The
Where
same
is it?
shit question.
You need this reference frame. Where is it, Ruhif? It's
Why
not a
do we
shit
need
question.
this reference frame?
You need a non-inertial and an inertial
Why?
reference frame.
Why?
Because without both of them, you don't get Coriolis effect.
No.
Yes.
You still get Coriolis effect inside
Holy
the
shit.
rotating reference frame, no matter if you observe it from a non-rotating reference frame or not. Why do you?
You guys are
the reason they use two reference.
Me and Ruhif is the only person here that knows what's going on out of all you guys.
Yeah, but Jeremy, there's a disconnect between the context that he's giving as a frame of reference, and then you're brute forcing using a different context and expecting a different answer.
I'm not brute forcing anything. Listen, you guys are claiming this is Coriolis effect. You've got to have the. You guys are claiming this is a Coriolis effect. You've got to have both of the reference frames.
Have one of them explain the Coriolis. Let's start with that.
Yeah, why don't you define it?
Can you
Because you
please
can't.
explain the Coriolis what it is?
Okay, hold up. Yeah.
Just try
Let's
something
let
real quick?
Ruhif do it for the.
What
Yeah,
what
go ahead.
what if I put a camera on a drone and I hover a drone next to the Foucault pendulum? What will the camera see?
Same thing you'll see.
What?
Yeah, the same thing you'll see if you were 5 feet off the floor. 10 feet off the floor.
I have returned.
And just as a little food for thought, there are no shit questions, just shit teachers.
Yeah, I mean, this is basic. This is basic Coriolis stuff.
I never.
This is basic.
I never disagreed with you until I started talking with flat earthers, and I have to disagree with you because there are shit questions.
There are. What's the color of the alphabet? That's a well put together sentence, but it's a shit question. It's malformed, and it's stupid to put those words together in that way. Of course.
I would say it's the rainbow. That's the color of the alphabet.
Stupid
Yeah,
answer.
you're excluding all the synesthesia people, dude.
Synesthesia, yeah, synesthesia. Gio?
Listen, Ruhif, we agree, right? You need Ruhif, we agree. You need both of these reference frames, right?
Okay.
And these are real places.
You will see it go
these are real places.
They're not real places. They're not places.
They are
not
places
or
we
things.
view. They are places we view motion from. They are places.
Coordinate systems. Coordinate systems.
Okay, and in these coordinate systems, we can put people, and they can view motion.
But the people are in all reference frames at all times.
Oh my god,
that would be nice.
Pulling teeth. It's like
How
pulling
convenient.
teeth.
How convenient. They're in all reference frames at all times.
That's not.
Yes.
Oh, they're not
This
in
is
all
why you
reference
guys don't
frames at all
understand
times. Because if
Coriolis.
somebody was in,
Everything
was in
is-
both of the reference frames at all times, you wouldn't be able to see. You know how we know if Coriolis is happening or not? We can have someone in both of the frames and say, "Oh, that went straight," and another guy like, "No, it curved." So therefore, we know that these people,
Yeah, it's going nowhere.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, Jordan. Finish up.
No, I'm just going to settle this reference frame debate. Jeremy's correct. Kosho, Jeremy's
Great.
correct. There are two in this case when it comes to the Coriolis effect. It necessitates two.
Are you going to say the same thing he said?
Let me finish. One is non-inertial, rotating, non-inertial. The other one is inertial, not rotating, not accelerating. Do you
Thank
get
you
it?
for repeating what he said. Thank you for repeating what he just said, just slower. Okay, thank you.
These are the two reference frames we're talking about.
Fantastic.
There's not infinite reference frames.
That's perfectly clear.
There's two.
Got that.
You can't have one without the other. Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. Going back to what I said about the observer distinction between the observer and the object. Okay, saying an object changing reference frames doesn't make sense at all. Saying that the observation is changing reference frames.
Once something is no longer, hang on.
Listen,
taken from.
Can I just stop this real quick?
You're mixing. Hold on, dude. You're mixing those two things up.
Let me just settle this real quick. It's like you guys never read the Coriolis Force page on Wiki. I'm going to read the first fucking sentence, and everyone that says you didn't need two reference frame is going to feel stupid after this. Okay, you ready? In physics, the Coriolis force is an inertial or fictitious force that acts on objects that are in motion within a frame of reference that rotates with respect to an inertial frame.
Can I go next, Jeremy?
Okay, so there's your two reference frames.
I believe you.
Can't have one.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I go? But here's what I like to say. I like how you're saying like you can't validate that it's there because you need one guy to know that there's the straight and one guy to know the curve. But as far as saying, do you need it, right? Like if you were just an observer in one and you saw something that was doing, it appeared to be curving to you, even though there was another existing frame where motherfuckers could validate that it wasn't, you don't need it You don't never have to go there or transform for it to be there. I mean, so but I just want to say it's just vocabulary and stuff, but like both sides are kind of right. We all, you know what I mean? Like
Don, what
That
the
was
fuck,
exactly
bro?
my point, though, dude. Exactly what he said. That the rotating reference frame, by existence, it implies that there is a non-inertial reference frame. That's a fact.
There has to be.
I think I've got
the
a good
Coriolis
question.
itself is the Coriolis is existing in the.
It doesn't
it's,
imply
viewed
it.
from the rotating.
Coach,
Jeremy,
it doesn't imply
does the
it.
projectile exist in both reference frames?
Kosho, it's in the fucking definition of it. Did you hear the sentence I said? You have to have the one. You have to have the other one. We have to be able to go there and see the motion.
Yeah, but does the projectile exist in both reference frames?
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
So
and
to-
but we.
So where's your inertial one? Okay, where's the inertial one?
The point is once an object has is no longer in contact with the rotating reference frame, it has left that frame of reference. It does no longer abide. It does no longer rotate with it because it's no longer in contact with it.
That's right. I mean,
The projectile
what do you mean
exists
no?
in both reference.
But once it's no longer in contact with the rotating frame of reference, it doesn't rotate along with it. Can we concede to that? Can we concede to that?
Projectile. The
That makes
projectile
perfect sense.
exists. The projectile exists. Oh, Jesus.
You have to concede to that, though. We can't
No,
move
I
on
don't.
until you.
I'm about to
I
respond.
don't want.
think
No.
What do you mean by it doesn't rotate?
Do you agree or disagree? Do you agree?
What do you mean by it doesn't rotate with it?
Well, it's no longer in contact with it. It's not rotating along with it. Like everything else.
There's no such thing as in contact with a reference frame. There's no
Yeah,
such thing as in contact with it.
What do you mean? You could just say there's no such thing in contact with this. What do you mean? I'm saying that there's no that if something's in contact with us with the Earth, for example, here, you guys are saying it's rotating. I'm in contact with it at the moment. If I'm floating, if I'm floating on a jetpack, I'm no longer in contact with it.
But you still have
it's supposed to be rotating underneath me.
You were
just
still
like
part of
just like the roundabout. Hang on. Just like the roundabout is rotating underneath the ball thrown from one side to the other. Yes.
No.
You can't deny that. That's what happens when you throw a ball on that roundabout. The roundabout rotates underneath that ball.
You're
I'm
still
sorry,
starting
you
with
can't go
momentum
around
when
this.
you left. You didn't lose all momentum just because
You can't
left
go around
up.
this. It's still it rotates underneath it. You're gonna tell me that the roundabout's not gonna rotate underneath that ball? It's just gonna it's just gonna conserve momentum and go along with the roundabout?
The phrase
Think about it, guys. Think about it. All right?
You've had your say. The
Put
phrase
yourself
leaving
on a
reference
roundabout.
frame.
Put yourself on a roundabout. Throw a ball to the other
The
side.
phrase leaving a reference frame doesn't make sense, right? A projectile exists in all reference frames at all times. If you are looking at it from an inertial reference frame, it will go straight. If you are looking at it from a rotating reference frame, it will curve.
Where is that in the Foucault pendulum?
Because you're looking at it
said, where is it?
In the of different reference frames doesn't mean that it doesn't go out of the reference frame of the original place it started. Just because you can say that you can see it from one angle or another, and that includes it in the perspective of the reference frames, doesn't mean that the Earth isn't rotating independently of the plane.
Yeah, where do we go, Ruhif? Where do we go to view the motion from the non-inertial frame, and where do we go to view the motion from the inertial frame? In the Foucault pendulum.
You declare it as a rotating reference frame.
In the Foucault pendulum, where are we? Where are we when we're viewing it?
You would strap your coordinate system to a point on the Earth, rotating Earth.
No, where would we put the human or an eyeball or a camera or whatever?
Yeah,
to be in the inertial reference frame. So we could have one in the inertial reference frame and one in. Where would we go to? Listen, will you stop talking over me? You know what? Just go ahead, guys. I can't get loud. People are sleeping here.
You're asking a silly question. You don't leave the reference frame.
I'm not saying to leave one. I'm saying to put a camera. First of all, you can leave a reference frame. Second of all, I'm asking where would we put a camera? We got two cameras, two video recorders. We're going to put one in the inertial frame and one in the non-inertial frame. Where are we putting the cameras?
Yeah, you'd strap one to the Earth because it's rotating, and then you'd have one not attached or not rotating with the Earth. So in a fixed point in 3D space.
Yes, but that has nothing to do
Is
with the
that
fact
is
that
that
the plane
feasible to
flies
do?
separately from the Earth.
What Globus
If you're
was
flying
saying is
against the spin
correct,
of the
though.
Earth,
Really?
the
And
Earth
that's
is
what you
spinning
guys don't
separately
get.
from the
Well,
plane.
that
my
was what
AirPod
the
died.
question of the drone earlier about having a drone in there and a camera on the drone.
Hold
That
on,
would
my
be your
AirPod.
separate.
Hold on, my AirPod died. Where are we putting the cameras, Ruhif?
I want
One's
to
gonna
ask
be
You
on
would
Earth.
strap
Green as a
one to the
shield. Why
Earth.
why
Hold on
did
a
he
second.
say? Okay.
You're next.
You would strap one to the Earth. It's rotating.
Okay.
So your reference frame will rotate with it, and then you'd have one external to the Earth, not rotating.
So we got to go outside of the Earth.
No, you don't have to go outside the Earth.
Where do we?
You
Where
can
are we putting
just
the
put
second
your
camera?
coordinate system. You can put your coordinate system on the surface of the Earth. It just can't rotate with it.
Where are we putting the camera?
Somewhere that's not rotating with the Earth.
Where? We need to.
I
we
don't
need to be able
know. Fucking it. Reference
doesn't
frames
exist.
are
It
a
doesn't exist,
hypothetical
Ruhif.
coordinate system.
I guess
Ruhif, it
the
don't
question then is,
exist.
Ruhif,
So
do you
the
know of a
focal
practical
pendulum.
example of a place you could put the drone such that it would be at rest with an inertial frame?
You'd have
Is
to
there
put
a
it in
practical
space if
place?
you're going to do it. Yeah, you'd have to put it in space. Practically.
Yeah, outside the atmosphere.
Yeah. Where the outside of where the gas stops spinning, rotating with Earth.
Sure.
What height would you
Wherever.
go to?
I don't know.
Can I check my
What
understanding
height
of
is
the?
that?
Halfway to Mars. What difference does it make?
Sure.
Can I check my understanding of the reference frame thing? Isn't the idea of it is just where do you ask the question?
Yes.
Like it's a sort of conceptual thing of if I'm trying to work out the path of something or something, where's my sort of point that I ask the question of where is the ball moving from left to right?
Yes. They're not objects. Like the Oakley crew kept saying, oh, the Earth is the rotating reference frame and therefore the atmosphere is not rotating. Just ridiculous shit.
Yeah, well, it makes sense why you're saying you cannot leave one frame of reference. It's like you could stop
Yeah, it doesn't
asking
make
the
sense.
question from that thing if you want,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean it leaves that frame of reference and
There you
joins
go.
another one on its path.
Right.
See, Harry gets
more
it
precisely,
in
what
fucking
would
1 minute.
No,
I don't know. I
you
feel
don't
like
get it.
when some folks say it leaves the frame of reference, what they're talking about is it stops rotating relative to the inertial frame. I mean,
No,
they're different
that's not it
statements, but
either.
it's
No. Yeah.
The problem is even if you have your conservation of momentum with this one, if the plane can fly against the spin of the Earth, even if it conserves its initial momentum, it still is flying separately from the spin of the Earth, and it would have to land on a moving runway. You can't get
No,
out
it's
of
not.
this.
No, it's not.
It would.
every plane lands on a
And
moving
it goes-
runway
and
relative
it
to itself
goes
because they
over
land at
multiple-
something like 170 miles an hour.
I mean, they land on aircraft
but
carriers.
they're never in straight. Yeah, in aircraft carriers, it takes a very precise landing, and pilots would have to be trained how to deal with the Coriolis effect when
No,
they're
they
landing,
wouldn't.
and they never
No,
are.
they wouldn't.
Yes, they would. You don't get it.
Landing on an
You just don't
aircraft
get
carrier
it.
going 30 miles
You
an
don't.
hour is roughly identical to landing in a crosswind of 30 miles an hour per se, and that's easily doable by averagely
No,
trained
not
pilots.
only would it would be easy enough to do maybe, but they're not trained to do so. And
They're trained to adjust their.
if the Earth is spinning separately.
Hold
from
on,
the plane,
hold on,
which it
hold
would
on.
be, it
You're
would be way off
confusing
course.
rotation with Coriolis. They're not the same thing.
But the effect is the same thing because when the ball spins underneath the
No.
plane, say the plane took off at a latitude where it was going 400 miles per hour. Now it's flying over other latitudes where it's 800 miles per hour, but it only conserves the initial force that it was at rest at. So then it would be entering a reference frame that would be 800 miles per hour of a spin of the Earth rather than a 400 mile per hour spin.
Well, it's not a
It can't
disjoint
pick up
change
that
like
speed.
that. It's if the plane is traveling from where it's 400 miles an hour and they go south, at some point they're going to hit a place where maybe it's 401, and maybe then their
No, it's
navigational
like
tools
800
say,
or
"Hey,
about
you're drifting
800.
off a tiny amount, a little bit toward the west." So what will the
Yeah,
pilot
but
do?
when it-
Keep
when it
themselves
hit-
on course.
when it
They will
hits
they will make the
800,
tiny
when
adjustment.
When it hits the 800 mile per hour area, which isn't just 401, it's going to be a huge difference in the way that.
Yeah, no, perspective. It doesn't go 400, 400, 400, 400. Oh shoot, it's 800. No, it's a continuous, smooth change across the latitudes. It is a continual small adjustment.
There is no in-plane adjustment that ever is done for that, and pilots
Sure
should
there
know
is.
about it.
If the pilot keeps themselves on course.
Show me the evidence for that. I want to see the evidence where they show that
If you
plane's
maintain,
correct for
if you
Coriolis,
maintain,
besides Walter Bislin's claim.
if you maintain your velocity and your heading, that's exactly what you're doing for the whole
You ask
trip.
for evidence
This is
and then
still,
he
this
interrupted
is
with
still
something
silent. Silent. Please don't interrupt.
you interrupted with something else, buddy.
I didn't interrupt. He stopped
You
talking,
did.
and I started talking. Calm the
No,
fuck
he
down,
asked for
Silent.
evidence and
This is-
you're trying to
holy
change the
shit,
subject,
man.
buddy.
Holy shit, man.
I'd like to respond after.
So I'm still trying to finish.
Hold on, let Bio finish up, guys. Come on.
This argument is analogous to the gradient pressure of there's this 14 psi pressure here, and then the vacuum of space is 0. It's the same analogy in which this isn't happening where you're going in the blink of an eye from this high amount to this low amount, or for this conversation, a low speed to a high speed. It's an extremely gradual, small change over time, and it's a long time.
So you're saying that there's somehow that there's adjustments that are made in the plane, or that the pilots are instructed to deal with this by adjusting for it. I want to see the evidence for that. Walter Bislin
So
claims
perspective. What happened?
do
The pilots
account for
don't.
it. No,
The pilots
in
don't
fact,
have a
why
list
wouldn't
of
the
like.
flight
Cue it up.
Why would the
Yeah,
flight
sorry.
simulators not include this adjustment as well?
Here
Because if the
is
pilot has to do it.
a very easy analogy. When you're driving your car and there's wind, you're not consciously fighting wind. What you're doing is you're maintaining a straight line in your lane. So you're not consciously hold the fuck on, Silent. Just because you're mod doesn't mean you can interrupt people willy-nilly.
No, no, no.
Relax,
You said something, but it's not true.
Honestly,
I know,
man.
just let him finish. We'll
It's the
pick it
same
out
thing for
after.
everything. If you're on a level road going straight and you let go of the wheel, even if there's no wind, your car's not perfectly aligned. But the whole time that you're traveling, you're consciously just staying straight. You're not thinking about everything that's affecting it. You're just staying straight.
May I speak now? All right. Left lane cannot tell you that you are constantly fighting the fucking air.
Okay, I'm next. Okay, Bio, I do appreciate your obviously the explanation of the gradual adjustment. You maintain it, so you're doing it minutely over the whole course of the trip.
Which isn't true.
But listen, I have a point. But if that's true, right? If you're doing this this minute thing by maintaining your course, couldn't it be said then we could do the opposite? We could make sure that we just maintained some other sort of craft rigidity instead of course rigidity, and then witness and demonstrate the fact that we did miss.
Exactly.
Sure,
right.
Sure. You would use a ballistic.
50 cal cannon example was supposed to be an object that does not consciously correct its course and thus ends up deviant from its original path.
Right. That would be a plane experiment. What plane experiments do we have?
We wouldn't use a ballistic plane.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's what you would use is a 50 cal. So a bullet that can maintain its integrity when it's shot for a very far distance with that force. That would be a great example of something that's not adjusting, and you're directly shooting it north and south, and then you're seeing this.
So you could use a rocket though too, right? You could use a rocket.
So long as it's a ballistic, sure, yeah.
So why? How come when we fly planes, we're not? How come when we fly planes, we're not aiming where the city's going to be at the
We
start
are
of our
aiming
trip?
that. You have a flight plan, and your whole point of the pilots and the autopilot is to keep the plane on that flight path. It is
They already
obviously
said we're
staying
not.
on course.
They already said we're not doing what I just said. You're wrong.
I want to see that the flight, that there's an in-flight adjustment made for Coriolis, or flight training that includes Coriolis.
There is.
Yeah, there is.
All the time.
That's a malformed
Besides
question.
Walter Bislin claiming
That's a malformed question. But to answer whatever that question was, you start with the heading. You have a.
You're saying.
God
I know
damn,
the
man!
course
Every goddamn
heading. I know
time.
you're saying it corrects automatically for the course heading. I understand that. It's kind of like when a flat earther is talking about it going west and it's clockwise, and a baller says, "What about true west?" and you're forcing the plane to go true west. It's kind of the experiment. that the guy just proposed about if you're going to make a rigidity to your course, you can prove this, right? You could do that with an airplane.
Great interruption. So Jeremy, when you build this flight plan, you have a heading from location to location, and all you're doing that entire time is maintaining that heading. So regardless of what's happening, as long as you're maintaining that heading, you're maintaining a straight line along this the surface of the Earth. That's all
but
you're doing.
Constantly, if you're aiming at the city, what I'm saying is if you're aiming directly at the city, you take off and you're aiming at the city, you're constantly trying to have to adjust to keep up for the Coriolis effect, which is going in front of you.
But
so why wouldn't you just aim?
I mean,
why
if your
wouldn't
plane
you
gets
just
hit by
aim? Hold on, I
turbulence,
wasn't done. Now your
then you're
people
gonna
are
fail.
interrupting, Bio.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, I know. I feel your pain when they do it to you.
It's both sides.
Yeah. So wouldn't it be smarter to just go in a straight line to where the city's going to be? Like when that save us distance traveled?
No,
because when you're maintaining a heading, when you're maintaining this heading, you're taking the least amount of distance. In theory, anyway, that's what you're aiming for the entire time. Much like Kool-Aid brings up the VSG or some shit for sailing. I don't fucking know. But as long as you maintain that heading, you're traveling sure. As long as you're maintaining that heading, you're traveling the least amount of distance. What you're talking about by overshooting, perhaps, would be is if the plane were a ballistic and it just said, we're going to give this one initial trajectory and direction. Now we're going to overshoot that city, and then that's it.
Yeah, to compensate for Coriolis effect, so that you would travel less distance. If you were leading the city, than if you had to play catch up, like if you were going north or south or whatever. One of the ways you got to play catch up. The other way, the city's coming at you essentially.
Yeah, but the biggest difference between these two scenarios is one scenario would be is if you are shooting a bullet and you're looking at exactly what you're shooting at. The other one is if you flip a gun so it's spinning any direction, doesn't matter what direction it is, and you fire the gun and the bullet itself can at every point in the bullet's path align itself with the direction it's supposed to be going. Right? If you did that, you could spin the gun anywhere it is, any direction, and at every point once the bullet leaves the gun, it's going to attempt to go where it's supposed to go.
No, we got you on this one, bro.
It's not even meant. It's not even.
No, you're totally wrong on this, Jeremy. You are totally wrong. I'm sorry.
No.
Well, how many runways would an airport need then to point at every destination?
If you're going in one direction, I think it's northwest or southeast. There's a direction you're going to go where, if you go straight, the city's going to come right at you, and there's going to be another direction where if you go straight, the city's going away from you. So it would be faster. You should be able to travel less distance on the ones where it's coming at you than the ones where you got to chase it.
No. Sorry, no.
Yes. What do you mean no?
No.
Okay. Okay, let's do a test then. When me and you get at a point, and we'll I'll run at something that's coming at me, and you run at something that's going away from you, and we'll see who gets there first.
Exactly.
How much you want to bet I get it? If the one's coming at me, I'll get it to mine first before you get to yours. That's going away from you. This is like a no-brainer. You guys are the dumbest smart people I've ever seen.
No, you're the dumbest dumb person I've met, because you seriously don't understand how airplanes work. You guys have this big problem with aviation.
I understand how Chase trying to get at something that's coming near you or going away from you is going to be different.
The problem is that even if you have everything you want about this, even if you have your adjustment in plane, which isn't the case, even if the pilots were aware that they have to correct the Coriolis, even if we're allowing you to say that the atmosphere and the wind conditions are the same as Coriolis and they're just adjusting for the same thing, even if you have all of that, when the plane comes in to hit the runway, it's not adjusting for the Coriolis. And if there was any kind of difference between the moving surface and the plane, it would need Dyson ball wheels to land, and it never does that. The wheels would break off. It would have to adjust for that at a north to south or any kind of angle. There would be a difference between the moving surface of the Earth and the plane. Yes, there would be necessarily by the laws of motion.
No, you don't know the laws of motion.
You can't just say
If a
no.
pilot-
You can't
I
just
can't
say
say no because that's you're totally incorrect.
Momentum is
You are
conserved. Because
settle down.
momentum is
Yo.
conserved,
totally
it doesn't work.
incorrect.
This one doesn't work, guys.
Hold
You're
on a
done.
second.
Perspective, if a pilot's momentum was sideways relative to the runway, their heading would not be lined up with the runway. So they would turn so that they are in line with the runway. And then there would no longer be the sideways momentum. They would fix it by seeing, hey, I'm not heading in the right direction. Let's turn.
But they don't.
You guys are making this minor
Well,
effect.
they do.
and-
Every pilot
make
lines
that
up with the runway before they land,
They do
unless
align,
they're crabbing.
yeah, and they see it miles ahead of them, and it's not moving separately from the plane.
Yeah,
That's
because the
reason
Coriolis
that
effect
it's
across
not
just a
a
few
moving
miles
surface.
is negligible.
They
Doesn't
dominated
matter. Doesn't
it.
even
They
matter if it's
dominated it,
negligible.
bro.
You guys
They
gotta
said
calm down.
everything. They
You
flew
You're making
around.
a
down.
minor
Why?
effect into a big deal. You're making this really minor effect into a big deal.
Guys,
Excuse me.
There
Y'all
you
said
go,
the 50 cal was affected 1,000 foot over a couple miles. Now you're saying a plane a couple
Exactly.
miles out from the runway isn't affecting 1,000 foot or so? Double speak.
Does the plane
Yep.
have a rudder? Does the bullet have a rudder?
Doesn't
Yeah, the
matter.
plane-
They don't
the
adjust for it.
The plane would need a rudder because the runway is moving.
Exactly. It would need to have
So
sideways
is the
acceleration
airplane.
as it
God
lands.
damn. The plane's moving with the atmosphere, with the earth. Gosh,
Doesn't
damn it.
matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can't just say it's moving with the atmosphere and it works and everything works out perfectly.
Well, you
as
can
it's
say
The
it.
atmosphere isn't moving with
No,
the
you
earth.
can't.
It's moving with the
Even if
wind.
it does, even if
The
it
wind
conserves
dominates the
momentum at the
atmosphere.
400 mile per. Listen, if it has a 400 mile per hour conserved momentum from where it started, when it's landing on a north to south runway at an 800 mile per
It
hour
doesn't have that though.
speed
It,
of the
it
earth,
scrubbed it off.
I tuned out.
it didn't scrub it off. There's no evidence
Scrubbed
of
it
that.
off.
Show
Yes,
me
there
the
is.
evidence where it scrubs off 400 miles of difference.
How far do you have to go for 400 miles of velocity
It
difference?
doesn't matter. You're just making
Yes,
this
it
up.
does.
You don't know what you're talking about.
No,
There
you
is no
don't, sir.
in-plane correction. There is
Yes,
no
there
in-plane correction. The flight simulators never include a Coriolis effect. The pilots are never told about any of this. This would be in the training manual, just like it would be if you're trying to land on an aircraft carrier.
It's an
You'd have to be
extremely
trained
minor
precisely how to
effect.
hit. And you could say it's minor, but it wouldn't be.
It is.
Even if it was minor, you're still done because they don't correct for it. Period.
Yes, they do.
I would
They
like to
don't.
also tell you that
show me evidence that they do.
I would like to also tell you that you're talking to a pilot. Paid NASA shill is an ex-Air Force pilot, so treat him as such. He should know this.
God, you guys don't know
Okay,
squat
so I
about
should believe-
aviation.
I
You
should
really
just
don't.
believe him. Okay,
Yes,
show me the
one.
evidence. Show me the evidence, because I've talked to pilots on the flat Earth side that say, no, these are never concerns. I've been trained how to be a pilot, and I'd never take the Coriolis into account. I've never even told about it. In fact, all the manuals say treat the Earth as if it were stationary.
Are you saying flat Earth pilots, or are you saying?
You can fly hands, stick and rudder, if you will, hands and feet. The simulators use the flat Earth model because it is easier to program. You really
That's
don't
really
need.
safe.
You really don't
Really
need to
safe.
worry about this sphere until you navigate over significant
Oh, okay.
distances.
Another
so they just
gentleman asked
they
about
leave
the
it out
pilot.
because it's easier. It's just easier.
Another
so they
gentleman
leave it
asked
out.
Correct.
what
It is
pilot.
That's
easier.
really that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
It
What do you
should.
mean
It is
makes
a lot
of
easier.
sense?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Yes, it
because
does,
would be
especially in the
something
days,
they would have to
especially
correct for. Show
especially
me evidence they ever correct for Coriolis. I want to see it. Do you
especially
have a
50
document?
years ago, when the computing power was a lot less than it is now.
Oh, so they didn't update it.
Are you really this?
A gentleman
No,
asked
you're going to attack me instead of the argument. See, you lost already.
No, I
What
haven't
pilot?
lost. I can't explain it to you because you are.
It's not about explaining it. Show me the evidence. I want to see a pilot ever being told that Coriolis is something that the plane corrects for or that he should correct for.
But that's what we're saying. that pilots
Maintain
don't have
course.
to. Yeah,
It's a very minor effect.
That would be
You're
that would be
strawmanning.
convenient if that were the case. If that were the case, it would be
Strawmanning.
convenient. Show me something that actually shows that that's the case.
You're
They always they land on every runway. They treat every runway the same. Even if everything you're saying is true, they wouldn't treat every runway the same. And
But
there
you're
would be a
making
moving
it differently.
surface. The surface
damn.
once they go against the spin, the
here's a more
surface
simple
of the
way.
Earth would spin
Oh, stop
separately
with this
from
move
the
against
plane.
the spin thing.
Hold on.
It would, dude. That's what fucks you up. That's why you hate it.
No,
There's a simple way to put it.
no.
There's a simple way to put it. Hold on.
Not
There's
about
a simple way to
explaining
put
it
it.
to me. It's
When
about
you-
proving you're right.
Hold on. Stop talking for 2 goddamn seconds. when you learn how to drive a car, I'm going to make assumptions. I'm not asking you a question. When you were learning to drive a car, they never taught you how to adjust for the wind. They never taught you how to adjust for the minor differences in your alignment. Yet, despite all that, you still drive your car straight within the lane and you don't deviate. That's essentially what's happening with an airplane. All the electronic systems.
You can feel the wind blowing you.
Hold on, Rakia. The electronic systems don't give a fuck. The pilot doesn't give a fuck what forces are acting on it. All it knows is that if it deviates from its heading, it will automatically correct, or the pilot will manually correct. The type of force or the reason why it deviated, no one fucking cares. It's just a deviation, and the pilot or the electronic system will adjust to maintain that heading. The same way that you don't care if it's wind, your car's alignment, or whatever other force, you maintain your straight path in your lane.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
you're
same
admitting
thing.
They do.
you're admitting you don't know it happens.
Hold on, let me respond to that. First of all, they do train how to drive in different weather conditions. That's one of the things that you go through when you have driver training school. If it's a slippery road, if there's something you're going to have to either turn into or turn against for these conditions that you would have to do.
I agree.
If it was a flying car, and you were going to have to, all of a sudden, somehow there's a mechanical issue and it's not adjusting for Coriolis, you're going to have to know how to adjust for Coriolis manually.
Yeah, and the procedure for that is if you get off course, fix it. That's the procedure.
Yeah, and you would be trained. And you would be trained how to do that. It would be a very precise training.
Yeah, and pilots are trained to do that. Pilots are trained to stay on course.
Oh, really? The pilots are trained to account for Coriolis, and they understand how the Coriolis would affect the plane.
No, they're trained that no matter what the hell gets them off course, they should stay on course.
Versus a north-northeast runway versus a south-southeast runway. You can't treat every runway the same and say treat the Earth just as if it were stationary. Rely on the corrections that the plane's getting, and just say, oh, it's just the same as if it were stationary, even though it's spinning with different latitudes at different speeds, with different angles, at different runways. You can't get out of this one, guys. This one ends the conversation.
Yeah, no. What they teach them is no matter what the hell gets you off course, you fix it.
From the reference frame of the pilot, he doesn't give a shit. Not. No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
he doesn't give a whit.
He would have to.
He doesn't
give.
No, he does not.
Oh, okay. That's your argument. They don't give a shit. That's a good one.
They don't give a shit whether it's because
they don't care. That's why. They just don't care. So they don't.
It doesn't matter. The Coriolis effect is a small, negligible force, especially when you're landing. For fuck's sake,
dude, you'd be 1,000 miles off course over.
No, you wouldn't be 1,000 miles off course.
Yes, you
would.
But
you correct for it.
No, you're saying they correct for it, but then you're saying they don't account for it in manuals.
They don't directly.
They don't make any sense, dude. You're contradicting yourself.
It is seen as a crosswind.
I must be muted.
Hold on. I don't know who this guy is, but he's going to have to shut up for a minute so people can respond.
The plane, the electronic systems, and the pilot, like I said, don't care about the specific reason to the deviation. If it's the Coriolis effect doing something, if it's wind doing something, if it's a pressure system doing something, it doesn't care. It's going to make the same adjustments, meaning that the particular systems within the aircraft that are engaging with the autopilot are just going to make tiny corrections. The examples that you gave for the driving were extreme conditions. You didn't go over 5 mile per hour crosswinds. You didn't go over half degree alignments. You brought up extreme cases. Yes, pilots are trained or learn about fucking hurricanes as well. 300-mile-an-hour winds at high altitude. Yes, they learn the extremes. Something small like the Coriolis, no, they're not exclusively learning about it because most of it's automatic, and the effect of it is adjusted more so in other adjustments that you make along your flight.
Forgive me, it sounds like you're just making up excuses because it would be an extreme adjustment, and a flying car is different than a car driving on a surface. Totally different.
No, not really.
Not even.
No.
Yeah, it is because you're talking about going over different latitudes with different speeds of the surface.
If you were driving a car at the same speed, you would have to account for the same amount of Coriolis if you had to
you would land the car on a spinning surface.
What do you mean spinning surface? You're spinning
you're
with
saying
it.
It's a spinning ball. You're spinning with it even if I give you that conservation of momentum is somehow indefinite.
You doubt conservation momentum?
It still doesn't work.
You doubt conservation momentum?
No, even saying I doubt that. I'm saying even if I give you that, it never that even
You
if
said
they
even
go
if
against.
they give it to me, so you doubt it.
Well, no, I'm saying that if they go against the spin of the Earth, you're saying that the conservation of momentum is still going to always be with the plane. It's always going to. So if it takes off and it's going against an 800-mile-per-hour spin, and it's going 200 miles per hour, then from a third-party perspective, it would go 600 miles
I don't
per hour
give a shit what
backwards.
the third. Hold on a second. I do not give a shit about the third
Well,
party.
I'm
Hold
not
on a
saying you
second.
should
Let
give
me
a shit.
fucking
I'm not
talk,
even
you.
saying the
Let me
pilots should
fucking
give a shit,
talk.
but they would have to.
Let me talk for Christ's sake. From the pilot's perspective, from the pilot's frame of reference, I could give a shit if God is out there looking and seeing the plane fly backwards in your vocabulary.
What kind of
really,
example is that?
I really don't care.
What I think would
to
make this
care.
conversation, what I think would make this conversation more interesting would be if New Perspective, if you would like to do the actual maths. It sounds like what you're saying is it's huge, right? I think we'd all agree if it was virtually no effect, we wouldn't calculate for it. Your argument seems to be the effect to be huge, therefore they would calculate it for it. It seems like a globe Earth side is the answer is insignificant, so we don't calculate for it. Why don't we calculate how much it is right now?
If all they got is they don't give a shit, then there's no reason to even try to prove anything.
I think there's just a miscommunication. I think
people say
they don't give a shit.
Harry, we heard your point. I can vouch for New Perspective. I've known him and engaged with him for years. He's a realist, and mathematics isn't going to help you in the desert when you're dying of thirst and starvation. You need food and water.
All right. No, hold on a second. I've been trying to get.
You understand that math is just a language, right? I can't help
Please,
you don't speak it.
It's not about that, dude. You act like it's a problem of us not knowing what we're talking about, and you're just saying, "Oh, they don't give a shit about it. It's an in-plane adjustment. They're just gradually accounting for this huge force that would be somehow." The difference would be that the Earth is moving separately from the plane, especially just to the fact that it's going 800 miles per hour at one latitude compared to 400 miles per hour where the plane started off. It doesn't correct for that. It doesn't correct for it when it lands, and it would if it was going against the spin or at any other angle, north to south, in any other way. Even if it was going east to west, it would be different than if it was landing against the spin and with the spin. Even if it was perfectly aligned.
If the suggestion is it's huge, why don't we just calculate it right now, figure out what it would be, and then we can have a discussion about whether that's huge.
Yeah, how much did the ball deviate on the stadium? On that small of a distance, riding on eggshell. You know the ball that Neil deGrasse Tyson? Yeah.
Less than what Tyson
over
said.
that period of distance. How much?
Less than what Tyson said.
Oh,
You think Tyson was right? So you think Tyson was right that you'd have to account for Coriolis when you
Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't know how to do
I'm
math,
just gonna
Kyle?
use it as a hostel witness.
No, he was doing
deviate?
estimations.
Why are you guys not answering the question?
Holy shit, man!
Because you're interrupting.
So you think that they're actually you need to account for Coriolis when they kick field goals? Is that what you guys?
Yeah, answer the question.
Oh, never mind. Fuck it. Fuck it.
Well, the thing is, we were talking about the airplanes, and Eggshells was going to be kind enough to calculate for this force to demonstrate that it is not a great force, and somehow we got deviated.
Well, Zanick's claim was that this 50 cal cannon was going to be off by miles and miles over just 25 miles, right?
It doesn't even fire that
That's
far.
what I'm saying. I don't think it deviated because the Earth is rotating that ball. I think it's because of the wind or something. If it deviate, right, it could be the ball spinning or whatever. But you guys believe that it deviate because of the Earth spin. How much did it deviate over
3
that
millimeters.
distance?
3 millimeters. 3 millimeters.
3 millimeters. You sure? Let me go.
That's what I calculated once.
No. I'm gonna search. Either you're.
Oh, you have to do the calculation.
Why
It's
you
not
guys
very
are talking
much.
about all these?
That's why. That's why he.
The expert, not to
that's
you.
why he
What the
said
fuck?
it because it was a joke that went over your heads like whoosh.
Oh, it was a joke.
Yes, it was a joke.
So in 50 yards,
It's
probably
not even-
less.
Ah, man, these people. Bro.
Yeah, it's not even enough. The air for this Coriolis is still well within the kill zone.
I'm sure you got the airplane.
It's not even
Yeah,
worth
I'd be
it.
surprised if artillery correct for it.
So in the
Artillery
long
correct
run,
for it.
if you go a long distance, it's going to be a massive amount. In the short term thing, from 100 yards to 100 yards, to mile, it might not be that much.
Okay.
While you guys
I
are
don't
talking
think so.
about all
That's why
these
I'm asking
airplanes and
Jeremy. That's
stuff.
why I'm asking how much it deviate on that stadium.
Over the course of 1,000 miles or something, it's going to be a lot. But if you're just
Hey,
going a
Paige.
football field's length, go ahead.
I'll share my
Hey,
screen. I'll
NASA.
try and do the maths. I found a Coriolis calculator online.
Hey, paid NASA
So-
Shield, do you want to hear a joke? Do you want to hear a joke, paid NASA Shield?
Sure, go ahead.
The Earth's a globe.
That's not a joke. That's reality.
That's a funny one. That's a funny one, though.
In the
Good.
shape of a pear, and you're all evolved from monkeys.
Oh, it was another joke.
Actually, the pear-shaped.
It was
How
another
how
joke.
pear-shaped is the thing, by the way? You know?
It's paroid.
It's so pear-shaped it looks round.
It's so
Yeah,
paroid they're gonna add a P.
It's
Yeah,
a
but
joke,
if we-
guys, that it went over your head.
There's a grown up that's trying to do a calculation for this Coriolis effect. Let's see what he's got to say.
No,
So I'm getting.
Walter Bisman has a
Because
calculator, as well as a
grown-ups.
claim that somehow the AI of the plane adjusts for this Coriolis effect.
So y'all aren't
Everybody
interested.
knows grown-ups do math. Come on.
Hey, left lane, tell the grown up that he cannot calculate a visual. Well, maybe he can calculate it, but
No.
a visual
It's not just
effect
visual.
cannot do
It's not a visual
anything.
effect, you
No, wait,
moron.
listen. It's not
what-
just. Wait,
what
listen,
speed-
Montreal. It's not just a visual effect. If we're
He
on a
keeps
spinning
saying that,
ball,
but he doesn't get it.
and if we're on a spinning ball and the plane is headed in a straight line, true straight, just like true west. If a plane heads on course from where it starts and it aims at the point that it's trying to get to, it would end up at a different spot because it's flying over a spinning surface. So it's a real effect and a visual effect. If you're looking
No,
for a
no.
third-party perspective,
Hold on.
it looks
Let's
like a
clarify
curve.
this. Let's clarify this. In order to have the Coriolis, yes, there has to be something spinning, but that's the assumption. See, that's they start
Right.
off with
I
the
know, it's
assumption
begging the
right away.
question. Begging the question. You're right.
Okay, so let
Exactly.
me ask. What I've found here on this Coriolis calculator is calculating both in terms of newtons and meters per second squared. Do either of those sound like an optical effect, or do they indeed sound like physics words?
Newton is like a practically unusable measurement of force.
Sure. I can also calculate it in kilonewtons, meganewtons, giganewtons, and teranewtons, or I can just give you the acceleration in meters per second squared, which I think is the easiest one to do. The acceleration of a plane, I've taken the biggest plane I can think of, which is the A380, which has a landing weight of 386,000 kilograms or 386 tons at 250 kilometers an hour. I've gone 90 degrees north, which is, what is 90 degrees north?
Or are you taking the
low aircraft?
Jeremy, what is the
Sure.
speed?
What's it?
what
I'm just
speed does
picking
the
a
Earth
particular plane.
rotate
90 degrees
on the
north
equator?
is 90 degrees north
That's
is
the
the North
North Pole.
Pole.
Oh, hang on. Okay, so what do I want to go? Then we'll go 60 degrees north. No, that's too
Jeremy.
far up still. 30 degrees north.
What speed does the Earth rotate at the equator?
There we go.
Do it with
It
an
would have to be 1,000
F-16
miles
at
per hour, they say.
How much?
speed of
Hold
sound.
on. How much, Jeremy?
Well,
So
Are you
okay, it's
asking me?
even less.
Eggshells,
Sorry.
hold on, bro.
Are you asking me?
Coriolis effect is greatest at the North Pole.
Yeah,
1K,
that's
1K and 1,000 miles.
the top I could. This is getting 0.005049 meters per second.
Just
which
a
is
side note, real quick. I think you're using Walter Bisland's site because he has an online Coriolis calculator. He also claims that there's an AI in the plane that accounts for this, which isn't true.
So
I'm not sure.
I'm
how
not
that-
using it. I'm using Omni
That's called the
Calculator. I'm sharing,
autopilot. And
I'm
yes, it
sharing my
does.
It doesn't-
screen.
Yeah, that would be nice if it actually does that.
It does. Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Shut the
Prove
fuck
it.
up, you children.
Show
Jesus.
me evidence of that. Show me evidence.
Are
that
you
the
guys
autopilot
just
does that.
playing? Are you just okay? So I've done a plane landing at 386 tons at 250 kilometers an hour. Do you want? Should we see how fast I can make it go? Let's say it's landing at 1,000 kilometers an hour. It's still less than 0.02 meters per second squared.
Does it allow you to set up the landing strip to be north to south in that calculator?
No, it's only asking hemisphere. It's only asking for the Coriolis effect. I'm
well,
plugging in the
problem.
things. So that's
the problem because the north,
no,
north
so
and
it's
south
not.
runway, you would be fucked up. No matter
think
what.
it's
So listen, listen.
You would.
It's calculating the Coriolis effect. So this is going to be the maximum effect. So that is the worst case scenario, right? North-south runway. Otherwise, if it's just an east-west runway, the effect is 0, isn't it?
Well, actually, yeah. If it says
How are
that,
you
I don't know
not
if it
keeping
says
up
that.
with this?
No, it's
It's
not that I'm not
Coriolis
keeping
effect.
up, it's that-
Agree with your
No,
Because he has
no,
to-
you're not. You're
Yes,
not-
Wait. I have a question, Eggshells. I have a
It
question
would have
for
to
you.
accelerate sideways as it lands, bro.
Yeah, 0.005 meters per second per second.
Why are you just focused on when the aircraft lands? I'm just curious.
We can do it when it takes off as well. But we would be just talking this whole time about a plane landing, and so I found the landing weight and speed of a A380. I can find the takeoff weight and speed, or sure.
Coriolis should be a factor whenever the aircraft is not touching the surface of the Earth, landing.
Correct.
Sure. I'll
Taking
bump
off.
up the speed. I'll bump up the speed a little bit. This is its
So
takeoff
let's-
speed, which is 315 kilometers an hour. And I've already
It
gone
matters
over that.
most when it's landing. When it's landing, it matters most because the surface is spinning separately from the plane.
Well,
Right,
either
but
way,
wait.
Nobody ever sees the Earth moving separately from the plane. It's the reason it seems like it's stationary is because it's stationary. That's the only way.
That makes sense. I get
No,
what you're saying.
75 tons.
From the pilot's frame of reference, the airport is stationary, and you're moving toward it. You're moving a lot faster
Hey,
than the.
Nasa, you don't think we can leave reference frames?
Yes, as you sit there, as you're piloting the airplane, you're in your own reference frame.
Ugh.
Right,
The airplane is in your reference frame.
I appreciate your effort, Eggshells, but I think it's going to be futile.
Well, it is going to be futile because these guys are totally don't understand aviation for anything. They don't understand anything about it.
So how can I have something? What would be a
Show
good
me
way to
some aviation
understand?
evidence. Show me some evidence that there's an in-plane correction.
So what I'm now trying to find out is what does 3,000 newtons look like? What would be a good way to try to understand newtons?
Well, that's why I was asking you if the Earth is rotating on the equator. Hold on, on the equator, 1,000 miles. You divide that on 24 hours. That's how much deviation you're gonna see per hour.
Is that the fastest it spins? 1,000 miles an hour?
I
At
think
the
it's
equator.
faster.
Is that
So I
the
can-
fast? Would everybody
I
say
can-
that's the fastest? I'm just asking. Is that
Yeah.
the fastest that it spins?
Yeah.
So it's 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, but if I put in 0 degrees, it's going to give me 0 because there's no change there. What I'm trying to find is the most extreme change, which is why I went to the North Pole.
But
but then-
calculator. Just take this scenario. Just say it starts at a 400 mile
worry
per
about
hour
the calculator.
latitude, and now it's trying to land on a 1,000 mile per hour latitude north to south, and just calculate that. The difference.
You don't have a 600 mile per hour difference.
It's going to conserve the 400 miles per hour.
You scrubbed that off. How long did it take you to fly?
You can't say it's scrubbed off.
You scrubbed it
Show
off.
me the evidence that. Show me the evidence of it being scrubbed off. Show me that.
Yeah, how
Show me a
long did the
plane.
flight take?
Show me the in-plane function.
You want to
that
watch
does
the
that.
plane fly
Show
for
me.
like 8 hours?
Oh, you just watch
How
it.
long
That's
did the flight
They don't
take?
worry about it. They
Which
don't care about the
operation?
Coriolis.
No.
Therefore,
Roy,
it doesn't-
shut
I
up.
don't have to
Shut
account
up
for
for
it.
a second.
What?
You're going to have to shut up for a second so that we can answer.
You got to let
Who
him
asked
speak.
the,
Paid
who
keeps
asked the
clipping.
question?
Citation.
Who asked the question about is that the fastest the Earth is spinning?
I
Who
did.
was that?
I asked that question.
Okay, so what they won't acknowledge, Baller Central, is that it's mathematical. It's not even happening.
Well, hang on. How did you
Well,
go
one of
from
the
it's
things.
mathematical to not happening?
Hold on. Merle's talking to me for 1 sec. One of the
Mel
things.
thinks
that I
maths
want-
isn't real.
One of the
No,
things that I
maths
wanted to
is
bring
real.
up. One of the
Hold on,
things that I
guys.
wanted to bring up to this is that, I mean, we have all kinds of aircraft. We have something called an SR-71 that can fly, according to Google, and I'm sure that this is not the top speed, but it may be, flew at 2,193 miles per hour, sir. So
Blackbird. I know it well. I got given a
you want to
model of
talk
that
about
as a
some
child.
guys that were going along the curvature of the Earth and could definitely like have to be correcting for the ball really quickly because they're flying at a clip.
Did they
right
land
there,
it?
boy.
Did they land at that speed? Because what we seem to be asserting,
Harry-
all of us seem
Harry-
to be agreeing, though. I was in the middle
Harry
of
has
talking,
to-
Merle.
Harry has to
Merle,
jump
you just wait.
in the middle of him talking to me. Relax, dude.
All right,
So-
away you go, Merle. Talk about how maths is fake and doesn't relate to reality.
I didn't say that. You're asserting that. You're putting words in my mouth. Relax. So they're mathematical equations. They have them. You can calculate them. Look at them with all their curvature calculators, right? They've got all their calculators. That doesn't mean it's happening in reality.
He just said it. You just said
So-
what Riding on Eggshell said. The math isn't real.
Yeah.
Math is a language. I can't help if you don't speak math. I'm sorry.
No, that's
That's
again,
not
that's
what
not
he
what
said.
I'm
Pain as
saying.
a shield.
Just because they have mathematical formulas, axioms, and equations doesn't mean they're connected to something physical and actual in real life.
Yeah, just like
we can
we can
figure
find
shit out with
just like we can find formulas for how Superman is able to fly, doesn't mean that there's a guy flying.
Oh, damn it, stupid. I tell you
No, but
what.
see,
So
see
are you
what I
saying
could
that
do.
airplanes don't
Just
fly
like
now
the last-
because
my
Superman
full
doesn't
stop.
fly?
My full stop is when you're in the desert dying of starvation and you need food and water, math isn't going to help you. Food and water is.
Neither will English.
Irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
So I've
It's
answered
not
your
irrelevant.
question, Hypotenuse. It is the effect of Coriolis on a blackbird at full speed, which I Googled and found was 3,529 kilometers an hour. The effect is 0.07 meters per second squared.
Well, thank goodness.
Is there a mod in
what
here
is-
that
what
can
is
check
that?
somebody in? by
Harry
the way?
saves the day with numbers.
What is that formula that calculator is based off of? I'm curious.
I mean, if you want to dig that up, that's fine. I just wanted to do the actual calculations, just to put it in perspective. I mean,
I've made
something
it-
that's moving that slowly, I don't think I would need to account for much for that. That sounds pretty low to me. What is 1 meter per second per second?
1,000 miles per hour
Very
isn't
slow.
slow.
I've made
Exactly.
a calculator that does the same thing, and it's
Oh, yeah.
fairly simple. You just have to use the cosine of the latitude. That gives you the distance between longitude lines at any given latitude. Multiply that by 360, and then divide that by 24 hours. That'll give you the speed, that latitude is traveling miles per hour. Or you can just
You're speaking a different language right now, Krisha.
Yeah.
Speaking a different
And
language.
the
Merle doesn't
exciting-
understand it.
The exciting thing about
The actual speed is
Coriolis,
1,000 miles per hour.
the exciting thing about the Coriolis effect is the Earth is always in the Earth's atmosphere. You can't escape it.
That's right.
And what's fun too is sometimes it moves with it and sometimes it doesn't. You know, it just kind of, it's like gravity. It's selective.
Very deep.
What?
Well, the
Philosophical words.
Gravity's not
the
selective.
atmosphere and the Coriolis aren't usually related unless you talk about what the Coriolis does to the atmosphere, but the atmosphere has nothing to do with what's happening to the Coriolis.
Well, it does, because when you're on a motorbike hauling it up a highway at, say, 160 kilometers an hour, and you've got no containment around you, and you're cruising through the wind or air, you feel it.
It's not Coriolis, though.
Deep again. Very deep from Merle.
Right. 160 miles an hour, very detectable, fast speeds. 1,000 miles an hour through the atmosphere. No one on Earth has experienced.
Yeah. Well, they only have several
So
people.
you got a
have, but-
problem there. And no one
Even with even
the
if you conserve your
rotation.
momentum, if you're starting at 400 miles per hour and then driving into 1,000 mile per hour atmosphere, you would feel it.
Yeah, exactly. You would feel that. But
I know
that's a
you don't go
different
straight
phenomenon.
there. You can't
That's
say
called
there's
drag.
a gradual in-plane adjustment. Show me the citation for the plane that adjusts for this. I want to see it.
Why would it need to? The
We're
pilot is the one who adjusts.
Because you're in
It'd
it.
be huge. It'd be huge.
Because you're in it.
You
You're in
keep
a
straw
1,000
manning
mile an hour
for this,
wind
and we do
system.
not say that it's there. We say it's minor. It's a small effect that it's not necessary to instruct for it, and you're asking us to show
Not a
you the
small
evidence
effect.
that they do
It would be
instance
huge.
for it.
It would be
That's
huge.
a
You'd be way off course. You'd be way off
Imagine,
course.
Imagine there's a giant magnet.
It would not be
It's so
huge.
powerful. Yeah.
It would not be huge because it's a very small effect over time. If you compare the beginning and the end of an 8-hour flight, yeah, it might be different, but you have 8 hours to account for that 600 miles per hour.
It's the same tactic you try to use with the reason you wouldn't feel the gradual adjustment that the elliptical orbit's going to cause is negligible because over time.
How elliptical is the orbit?
So
how
that's
elliptical?
It's the
How
same
elliptical is
tactic.
the orbit?
How much denial?
We'll stretch it out.
How
make it seem like it's
elliptical
just
is the
negligible.
orbit?
What are the mathematics
the
for the
plane
level
landing
of
on the
denial
runway that it
paid
never
NASA Shill is in?
And well, I'm not talking. I'm talking. What are if he's going to bring up the eccentricity of the orbit? We got to talk about something totally different now. That's just a
No,
red
let's
herring.
not. Let's not. I want to stick to the fact that the plane can never land on a spinning ball.
It can. Because it is spinning with the Earth.
The spin. It's not
No.
spinning with the Earth. Once it
It
goes
is
against
too.
the spin,
No.
you can't have it both ways.
Yes, I
If it's spinning
can.
with the Earth, then it has to
I
stay
can,
with
no,
the
I can
Earth.
have it. I can fly both ways. What do you mean? I can't fly east or I can't fly west? Which way can I fly?
You can. You can. And I'm saying you can, and that's the reason
I-
that
well,
you're
can I-
going to be
can I fly
flying
east or west?
separately from the Earth. The
No,
Coriolis
well,
effect necessitates it to. If it's a
No,
ball,
the Coriolis has
effect would be
has
real,
almost
and
zero
it would,
effect
it
on
would deviate.
the Coriolis
You
has
can't
almost
even,
zero effect.
Even if you say it's
Jesus
almost
Christ.
zero, it doesn't account for it, which is the
Okay.
point.
You just figured
Check
how
this
much
out.
it is. It's like 0.05 meters per
Oh,
second.
but pilots are never trained to account for this, and they
Yeah, I know.
Because you don't have to.
They would have to
One
accelerate sideways to
semantical
land
phrase at
safely.
a time, please.
You guys are saying
They
the
would
same
have to.
things over and over.
They would have to
Listen.
accelerate. They would have to accelerate sideways when they land to land safely.
Yeah,
Coach,
you
you
said
can't
that.
save
You
the
said,
situation.
you said that, right? You said they had to accelerate the last whatever second they're flying. Imagine the last 10 seconds of a pilot's flight, right before he lands. He's landing in 10 seconds. He's going to be on the ground in 10 seconds. Okay, so however much ground he's going to cover in that 10 seconds is all we're talking about. Okay?
Imagine.
So the Earth is going one speed, and then the Earth is going another speed in 10 seconds when he lands. What are those
There you
different
go.
speeds? What's the difference between them? And how
and
what's the effect?
is there a difference between the ground moving
Yes,
and the
there is
plane
a
moving?
difference.
No.
There is a difference.
Okay, well, if there
Yes,
is, then we would
there is a
show
difference.
that. It'd be easy enough to show, but the
That-
plane always treats
listen,
everyone
dude.
way the same as
Hold
the
on,
plane.
let me break in here for a minute.
Hold on, before you break in.
Hold
before
on,
you break in-
Kosho,
well, I mean,
hold on, Kosho, hold on.
Why can't I finish my point?
Well, because
you already
I'm just
did.
trying to.
Well, I
Well,
didn't.
and it's just there's a lot of over talking, right? And I appreciate new perspective. I appreciate your passion, but kind of you're clipping people a lot. You got paid NASA shills. You know, you got him all fired up, and so there's just it's kind of devolved into a lot of over talking, and everybody's trying to get in their points. So let's just maybe try to dial it back, and everybody just take a breath and let other people speak.
I
like what
agree.
Kosho was saying, though.
I would like to finish. Yeah, I'd like to finish the point though, without getting interrupted. But yeah, that's all I'm saying. You're talking about is correct, but instead of comparing the beginning of the flight and the end of the flight, the speeds of the Earth, compare 10 seconds or 1 second or whatever. You know, whatever that difference is. It's that the speed of the Earth, those two instances that you're really talking about. So the distance the plane goes in 1 second, right? And the speed of the amount of ground it covers at the speed of those 2 points, it's going to be extremely small and extremely close.
I was gone
in
for
the
an
range of speed.
hour and a half, Kosho. An hour and a half, and you were still talking about this?
And
You gotta
besides,
be
if you
kidding
make it a
me.
1 second interval, then you can say it's extremely small.